Hey friend, welcome back to the Bible Tract Echoes radio broadcast. I'm Michael McCurry, your host. Today I am joined by my wife, Miss Rebecca McCurry.
Hello.
Hello, she says. Even though I did have to twist her arm just a little bit to join me today, I do appreciate the fact that she has decided to. And being on camera, being on the radio is not her favorite thing in the whole wide world. And so I very much appreciate not only your investment of time to our listeners out there, but also to my wife in joining me. We are traveling today on a little bit of a road trip. We're in Northern California, have the opportunity to be in beautiful Northern California. Actually, the rain has cleared up a little bit, and so, yeah, it's pretty nice now. It normally is pretty nice, except for over the winter, but...
Except for while we've been here.
Except for while we've been here. So, we began a discussion yesterday talking about what led us, or who, of course it was God, that led us to the ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. And it's amazing the fact that it wasn't even really on our radar, like at all. So, quick recap. Yesterday we talked about some health struggles my wife had in 2018 and even into early 2019. And all of it culminated with the fact that if you saw my wife at church right now, you wouldn't know the difference. And now a couple of years later, you wouldn't know that she had open spine surgery, would you? January 1st, 2019, right?
Yeah.
And now able to kind of play some volleyball and things that you enjoy and all of that. So the Lord's been very good to us. But the Lord used some of these things to direct our path. And in mid-2019, I sat down with my pastor, Joe Grimaldi. He was a gentleman I got to work with and for about 5.5 years. And we had discussions like this many a time. And I knew that evangelism was what God had for us. And that was something that we kind of arrived at together, wasn't it? It was kind of a joint decision. We knew, because you realize, well, maybe we'll talk about this more tomorrow on the broadcast, but me being an evangelist does require some things of the family too, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yes. For instance, this radio broadcast that she's on right now. And are you rethinking the decision for me to go into evangelism?
Yes.
No comment. You're supposed to say no comment,
No
not yes.
comment.
Anyway.
This camera over here is struggling.
Anyway, we have had a wonderful time this past almost coming up on 3.5 years now. So it was a Sunday, I think it was June or July 2019. You were in that meeting, I was in the meeting, our pastor was in the meeting. We sat down and we knew that God had evangelism for us.
Yep.
And there were probably tears shed in that meeting, and I know tears shed later on when we actually had our last Sunday there. But we talked to our pastor, and we agreed that a 6-month lead up or on ramp or whatever you want to call it would be a good idea. That would give our pastor and the church there in Akron, Ohio, that would give them 6 months to find someone to take my position as youth pastor and all that. It'd also give us 6 months to get ready for evangelism, because we had a house there. We were cemented kind of there. And so with our pastor's council, we were going to relocate back to Illinois. And 2 days later, we were at camp, Common Ground Baptist Camp in Butler, Pennsylvania. And I got a call from a friend. And he said, "Are you thinking about a transition in ministry?" And I said, "Yeah, how did you know?" He said, "Are you thinking about moving back to Illinois?" I said, "Yeah, how do you know?" And he said, "Well, there's ministry, Bible Tracts Incorporated. They're looking for an office manager." And I was thinking, the way it was described to me was, you know what, this might be awesome. Could work kind of part-time. I'm thinking first years in evangelism, it's going to be bread and water diet. Maybe the joke is maybe we'll have some ramen noodles with hot dogs cut up into it if we have a really good love offering or something. And so a couple of days after this conversation with the pastor, we get this phone call, and maybe you could be the office manager, he said. Maybe you could kind of work in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, be gone on the weekends. And I was like, this could be awesome. Be bivocational in ministry And so got in touch with the previous director, Mark Smith, got in touch with the chairman of the board, all those types of things. And so I got to sit down with them and had a conversation with Mark Smith, had a conversation with Pastor Joey Watt, chairman of the board. And about 2 hours into that interview, Mark Smith said, well, I know you're here to interview to be the office manager. And realized, as I'm looking at this ministry, walking through and hearing everything about it, I'm like, there is no way that I can do this justice working Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. This is not even one person's full-time job. This is more than that. And so he says, you know what, I think you should be the next director here. And I don't know if I've ever asked you this, Becca, do you remember me calling you after that and us talking about what were your thoughts? Like, because you knew I was going down to interview to be an office manager, and that wasn't a sure thing. What was your thoughts on that?
A big part of us, when we decided to transition to evangelism, was to move back to Illinois by my family. And when he told us...
Because at that point, we weren't sure what the lingering health issues would be and all that, right?
And I had been struggling.
Right. It was very difficult for the first year or two.
So I think I was very excited about the interview, but also hesitant because I had never heard of Bible Tracts.
Right.
And I was like, how can such a great ministry only be 45 minutes from where I grew up, where I called home? And so I was kind of hesitant when he went to the interview, but also excited at the possibility of it turning into something. And then when he said the interview went well and it was, explained stuff to me, I had to try very hard not to get high hopes.
It took about, what was it, another 2 or 3 months, I think, until it was locked in that this is what was going to happen. Had the opportunity to meet the board, had the opportunity to meet some of the folks that have been investors in this ministry for a long time.
I do remember my first time meeting Brother Mark Smith, and that I instantly liked him. So that
hard not to instantly like Mark Smith.
That was a good sign.
Yeah.
And when I met him, I felt very at ease and knew that we're getting into something good.
Right. And so, a shout out to Pastor Mark Smith. He's awesome. Still is. We had him back as our guest of honor for our grand opening of our new building this past year. Speaking of, we have our open house, just before I forget, while it's on my mind, September 30th, 2023. We want to see you there. It's a Saturday. We'd love to see you there and meet you in person. But as we kind of continue on, things just it was amazing how God just let these dominoes fall, and how how everything just kind of seemed to work out. And so I'm working with my wife as the camera lady.
Well, I'm trying to look at the front camera.
So for those of you that are just listening online, we have a video version that plays on YouTube as well. And so we have a GoPro mounted to the front window, or the suction cup thing. And so that's the main camera. But off to the side, every once in a while, our video editor will swap over to that one. But I don't know if he is able to, because the camera lady's not doing a great job.
You get what you pay for, sir.
That's true.
And I have not had my coffee yet this morning, so...
That's true.
The camera and I are both struggling.
Well,
finish your story.
Finish the story. So, long story short, Pastor Mark Smith and his wife, Miss Nancy, put 15 phenomenal years into Ministry of Bible Tracts Incorporated. Of course, there's so many that came before them that laid the foundation for this ministry, but they carried on. They picked up the baton and carried it forward, and then handed me the baton. And I still remember Pastor Smith. I mean, the ease with which he allowed the transition to happen was truly incredible. There are very few people, very few ministries that have had the opportunity to be as seamless of a transition. Of course, I still could, Lord willing not, but I could have fumbled the baton and all that. But my goodness, he made it so very easy. And the training and all of that. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and Miss Nancy left things so organized.
Yeah.
They didn't, all right, goodbye, we're gone, here's a mess. It was, her fingerprints are still seen,
so many
and
systems,
so many things we go back
right,
trying to find. And
so many organizational things that are so helpful. When, like my wife just said, when we're trying to find something, it's so easy because they're actually labeled well. And that's also Miss Nancy Howard as well, who is longtime office manager, did a phenomenal job. But all that to say, as we were kind of ships passing in the night, we didn't really have any overlap because there was a church in Pennsylvania, good church out there where Pastor Smith still is, and he knew God had for him to get back into the pasture. He had to follow God's will for him as I was following God's will. And he said, when people ask, why would Brother Smith retire, not retire, of course he's still in ministry, but why would he leave Bible Tracts Incorporated? And the insinuating question, why would he turn it over to you? And you got to realize, I was in my late 20s when he left, and Brother Smith, a seasoned, mature man in ministry, to allow me that opportunity. And he said that it needs a younger man to take it into the 21st century. I don't know how much I believe that, because I think Brother Smith could and was doing a phenomenal job. But at the same time, the fact that he would be willing to say that, whether or not he truly meant it, I think he did, but whether the fact that he would be willing to say that and give that boost of confidence, to slap the baton so firmly into my hand and say, go on, go take it forward, and then to, if we're using the race analogy, to stand behind me in my lane where I took the baton from him, and then to cheer me on.
Yeah.
And even since then, the investment he's made, the conversations we've had, and the opportunities that he's taken to invest in me, we're so very thankful. And so, long story short, I told the church, I told my pastor there in Akron that I'd give him 6 months. The 6 months ended January 31st, 2019. Officially became director January 1st, 2020. And it's been completely...
We do have to say a quick shout out to Austin, the office manager, for holding it down till you could get there.
Oh, absolutely. So there's a phenomenal team. Both when I said that there's no way one person could have run BTI, oh, it's absolutely so true. It's more than true now. In the interim, in the short period of time before I was able to come, Austin Marriott, who's now Director of Operations for Bible Tracts Incorporated, he was able to come, and it just was a huge bridge, just an opportunity. He took the opportunity to be a bridge between the Smiths and me coming. And then my mother-in-law, Miss Cindy, Miss Becca's mom, she did such a phenomenal job. And then Todd Lofbaum, who's still on staff and works with the outreach, prisoners, and all those types of things. I am, and I've mentioned many times, I am indebted to the people I get to work with. We have phenomenal staff, and they keep the ministry rolling while I'm out here on the road with my family. And so to all of you that are listening, we're going to continue the discussion tomorrow. We're going to talk about maybe some of the difficulties of traveling. Not necessarily the difficulties of traveling, but traveling with a knucklehead. Challenges, because challenges can be overcome. Thank you so much for listening. My prayer is that you have, as always, a great day for His glory. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow. God bless.